Okay, looks like we're going live. I'm just waiting for it to show up over here. All right, we are good. So today we're going to be focusing on the muscles of the arms and shoulder. We just worked the chest and back and legs earlier in the week. So we're gonna give those muscles time to heal and recover, but the smaller muscles in the arms and shoulder take less time to actually recover from that workout. So we can hit them again and keep making progress and building up those muscles while we're waiting for the other larger muscles to heal. So if that sounds good to you, if you want to follow along workout building your arms, maximizing those arms and shoulders, hit that like button for me to let me know you want more content like this. So I'm going to start with a warm up for the arms, doing the same exercises that we're going to be working the muscles in the same way that we're going to be exercising them. So this is a specific warm up rather than a general warm up. So for this, grabbing 2 dumbbells, we're gonna do an overhead press. Now this works the deltoid muscle, some of the traps, a little bit of the upper chest, but mostly this tricep back here and the deltoid in the top of the shoulder. So for this, I'm gonna bring my hands wide out to the outside of my shoulders and press up towards the ceiling, going straight up. Now I don't want these to go right over the top of my head. I want them to stay a little bit wide so they're at shoulder width. So going up towards the ceiling. I'm just starting with a light dumbbell, just getting some blood flow into the muscle. This also lets me feel how sore the muscle is. It might be that I don't feel like it's that sore when I'm just standing here, but trying to lift weights, I might feel a little bit more soreness in the joint. And this lets me sort of be aware of, am I actually recovered from last workout? So the biggest indicator is if you have pain in the muscle when you try and do a lift, you know that muscle is not recovered yet. So the other exercise we're gonna do is using a bench. Now, I've really enjoyed using a bench for curls because lets me do a decline resistance curl or a decline bicep curl. And what that does is it allows that upper part of that bicep muscle to engage on the lower part of the movement. So if I'm like this in sort of a reclined position, as I go down, I'm stretching that bicep at both parts of the joint. So I'm getting a more complete lengthening of that bicep muscle by going into this reclined position. Now I don't do this all the time because it is pretty tough on my bicep. So it's a pretty intense exercise. It takes a bit more time to recover from. But I do try and keep it in rotation or I do try and rotate it in to make sure I'm keeping that entire length of the bicep, and as one of the variations that I do for the bicep curl. I'm gonna shift this just a little bit over. So if you have an incline bench where you can where you can put the back up like this, I set it to a 45-degree angle, and then from here, going out towards the front, feeling that stretch in your bicep. Now we're gonna shift to a heavier dumbbell. That was our warm-up set, so I'm gonna move up to a heavier dumbbell and do a working set. So I'm going to bring the dumbbells wide to the outside of my shoulders, pushing up towards the ceiling, and then all the way back down. That's the important part of this. So I want to really bend those elbows completely down. And 13. For me, I feel that most in my deltoid muscle here. My tricep is working, but not as much as my deltoid is having to. So you're only as strong as your weakest link. That muscle is gonna fatigue out first for me. But once that muscle starts fatiguing, even though my tricep could probably do a little bit more, I'm gonna stop and give that deltoid a break. What I might do is add an extra tricep movement in. If I was really focusing on the triceps, but given that I'm going to have to work them again on Friday, I probably have enough volume of the tricep or enough exercises targeting that tricep in a week that tricep is still gonna grow, and I don't wanna overwork it where I get to Friday and I'm not able to actually lift doing bench press or an incline press. So even though I maybe could get a little bit more on my tricep, I'm going to not overdo it on that. Because right now what I'm testing is if I can get 5 sets of bench press on Monday and Friday. And if I mess up my triceps right now, I can't really complete that experiment. So, going from here, going out straight, and then back up. Doing incline curls, really working that full length of bicep all the way up to the top of the shoulder. Now I like this bicep curl because you can actually really feel an intense workout with a much lighter weight. And 13, and it stops any sort of cheating reps where I can't swing my hips at all. So a lot of people don't realize the bicep is actually a shoulder muscle too. It attaches right up here on the front of the shoulder and it will pull the shoulder this way. So by bringing the shoulder back, I'm actually stretching it across here, and that's gonna add to that tension in the muscle. And that's what that tension across the muscle cells is what grows those muscles. So, if you want to maximize that full length muscle growth, a great way of doing that is doing a recline or a incline bench bicep curl. All right, going right back into an overhead press. This is set number 2. Now, I'm probably gonna be hitting around 13 reps. The exact number of reps don't matter, as long as you feel tired in the muscle. So it's a combination of weight plus reps that get you that fatigue. All right, so those I like because they hit that deltoid as well, hitting that side deltoid as well as the tricep. So I'm still hitting multiple muscles at the same time. And lateral raises are great, doing left to the side for the deltoid. I just want to try and get more per exercise in. So if I can get more muscles engaged, the better. So that's why I'm trying to do, even with a more isolation movement of that tricep muscle, I'm still trying to hit those deltoids too by doing an overhead press. All right, set number 2 of bicep curls. If you've never tried these, give them a shot. They're deceptively difficult. One more. 13. Yeah. My biceps feel like they're on fire on those. Now, if you have any pain right here in your tendon, try a lighter dumbbell and then work into that range. Sometimes your muscle can be ready for that, but the tendon is not quite ready, so it can cause tendon pain. So if you have that, try dropping the dumbbell down in weight and see if that doesn't go away. Because sometimes we have to strengthen our connective tissue and our tendons to make it so they can actually, because the muscle has to pull through that tendon. So if the tendon's weak, we need to strengthen that up too. Some people never go to that full extension on the bicep, and so their tendon is actually really weak here. So when it's under that full stretch, the tendon can't take it. So it's important to pick a weight that you can go through that full range of motion, all the way straight, all the way bent. Now you don't have to hyperextend your elbow, just going to where it's straightened, where you're going to experience the high tension in the muscle. All right, set number 3. I'm gonna give a second because my hands are cramping a little bit, or they don't feel quite ready to lift a weight above my head. Whew. Okay. We're trying to get through this quickly, so reducing rest time by doing what's called a superset, where we're working one side of the muscle and the other, or one side of the joint. So we're working bicep that pulls this way with the incline curl, and then tricep that pulls this way with the overhead press. So while one side's working, the other side's recovering. That's what's called a superset. So it's a pair of exercises that work complementary muscle groups. All right. Going to an overhead press, set number 3. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm trying to go all the way down to my shoulders each time. Wow. 13. Because that's where I get the most tension in that muscle. And that's what's gonna cause muscle growth, is actually high tension in the muscle. That's what will trigger your body to actually send nutrients to that muscle to grow those muscle cells and cause those muscles to hypertrophy or increase in size. we actually don't gain new muscle cells. We gain bigger muscle cells. So the muscle cells, instead of being this little tiny thing, will swell up. And that's what causes your muscle to expand and look like it's growing. It's not growing new cells, just the muscle cell size is increasing. So right now the thinking is, or right now the science is saying that muscles were at a fixed number of muscle cells. They don't increase or decrease really. It's all muscle size and strength gain is from muscle, both neurological and muscle cell size. Now, that might change in the future. We might make new discoveries on how to grow muscle cells or how to trigger that happening, but at the moment, it seems that that's not possible to grow new cells. So going into our third set of bicep curl. But that just means we need to get the muscle cells we do have to be large and healthy. So if you're looking to grow muscle, to work out with me, to get your muscles as healthy as possible, I look at people my age. I'm almost 40, I'm 38. A lot of them have lost a lot of their muscle mass where they have trouble moving around like they used to. People say, oh, I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't want that to be me. So I'm working to maintain that muscle size and health. And to grow those muscles as large as possible. And that's where I stop. So to do that, we have to put that muscle under tension, put it under load to keep that muscle healthy and to even grow it in size. So as we age, your body loses muscle mass at about 1% per year after 35. So 30 years down the road, if you were to go from 35 to 65, you've lost a large chunk of your muscle mass unless you work to maintain it. So even just staying constant is growing. So that's why we want to make sure at least, even if you're not trying to be bodybuilder big, doing some resistance training is so important because it will keep what you have. You don't want to decay over time. You want to keep that muscle mass for as long as you can to be happy, healthy, move. The example I give people is, do you want to be able to pick up your grandkids? Or do you want to be able to walk around without a walker? Because that starts at 30, not at 60, 70 years old. That starts young. That's going to be so much easier to keep it. It's like saving for retirement. If you start young, it's so much easier than if you try and start saving for retirement at 65. All right, going for an overhead press. I like this movement. So it's like you're picking up something and putting it on a high shelf, like a heavy box or something. Or maybe you're putting luggage overhead. It keeps those muscles healthy and strong. Wow. 13. Okay. And last set of bicep curl. We're gonna do 4 sets today. Set. Yep. Yeah. So I hit kind of a wall with that exercise. Started by doing 13 reps, and then that 4th set, I only got through 7. That muscle's pretty spent. So I'm going to stop there. Hey, B2, good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. How's your day going? So, we're stopping there because I have another workout in 2 days, and I don't want to drain this muscle so much that I'm not recovered by then. If I miss a workout, that's no good. So I'm going to do as much as I can, but considering I lost so many reps on the last set, that muscle has gotten everything I can out of that for growth today. Now I'm going to just give that time to heal, recover, and be ready for my next workout. So if you're just joining us, we are focusing in on arms and shoulders today, and giving chest and back some time to heal and recover from soreness, so we're ready to go again on Friday. So our goal is to get 3 workouts in during a week. B2 says, I did my shoulders yesterday. That's awesome. What did you do for shoulders? Today I did overhead press. I really feel it a lot in my deltoid, right in here especially. Today you're thinking about hitting biceps and a bit of chest. I recommend the exercise we just did where we do a reclined dumbbell curl. Great for the bicep. So biceps and chest, that's an interesting combination. Usually people do chest and tricep, and that way they can do bicep on a different day. But for me personally, I kind of like doing all sides of the joint at once. So I do tricep, I also do bicep. For shoulders, B2 says he did cable lateral raises, awesome. Arnold presses where you do the twist, okay? And a rear delt fly. I think that's so great. A lot of times the rear delts, these muscles in the back of the shoulder, get missed out on, and they're actually a really important stabilizing muscle of the shoulder. So it's so good that you're including those in your workout routine. That's awesome. We're actually gonna do a face pull right now. And that also works those rear delts and rotator cuff muscles, because I think they are really important. Bicep and chest, B2 says bicep and chest are exclusive. Like while I'm doing chest, biceps are not activated, so I start fresh muscles after hitting chest. Oh, okay. So it's sort of chest, bicep in between, so you're not overlapping. That makes sense. Yeah, as long as you're not doing a pec fly, because that will hit the bicep as well as the pec. But if you're doing any sort of press movement, then you're pretty good to not have to worry about your bicep. That's awesome. So for the face pull, what I like to do is lean against a wall or a post, something stable, and we're gonna bend towards the front and letting our arms hang, keeping our back straight. Hey, Hasib, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Welcome to the live stream. So this exercise is gonna be working that rear deltoid and the rotator cuff, as well as some of these muscles in between your shoulder blades, the middle traps. So a lot of these muscles can get neglected, and where we're doing bench press and rows and these large muscles of the lats and pecs, but these stabilizing muscles are just as important. They help keep that shoulder together. Be like driving a car. You wouldn't want little tiny screws holding the wheels in place with a big engine. Same thing. These are those things that are holding that shoulder in place. So that's why we want to make sure they're strong too. B2 says, I want to start doing legs tomorrow maybe. Could you tell how can I start doing legs? Because I've never put weight on my legs, but I've never done intense plyometrics before. So that's a great question. I would not start with plyometrics for legs, because if you've never done resistance training on your legs, then the chance of injury is way higher with plyometrics. So it's better to start with something non-plyometric, build up that strength and that tissue tolerance. Oh, you have done plyometrics before. Oh, I see. Okay, so you've never done weight on your legs, but you've done plyometrics. Interesting. From football to jump higher. Okay, so what's the goal with what you want to do with your legs? Are you looking to build more strength, more muscle mass, or just for a change away from the plyometrics? What's the goal there? Because that changes to get bigger. Okay, so what I'd start with is you could either do this weighted or just body weight might be too light, but you could do dumbbells held in each hand. So what I would start with is a lunge exercise. So holding dumbbells in each hand, I wouldn't start with something up on your shoulders. It's easier to start down here in sort of a suitcase carry position. And then it's just kneeling down to the ground and back up. Now I'd try and go for high reps on this. So you want to go until your legs are burning. So we're working that front leg with this, going down to a kneeling position and back up. 90% of your weight is on this front leg, only 10% on the back leg for balance. And then you just switch legs and do the same number of reps on the other side. And that's going to help build up these muscles in your thigh. If you go for reps and do high sets, that's going to increase the muscle mass. So the biggest thing for building muscle mass is actually the number of sets you do, not the number of reps. But I personally like high reps with moderate weight because I find that it's better on my back, better on my joints. Well, I can still really target that muscle without the joints grinding out. Also for calves, yeah, that's a great question. So for calves, what I do is standing sort of against a wall, put one foot behind the other, and then you lift your heel up and then back down. Now, you should feel that all the way through your calf. Try and keep your knee straight. So if your knee bends, I'm actually not working the full calf anymore, so keep that knee straight, pushing up to the front. Now, if you need to, you can always hold a weight to add a little bit of extra pressure to this. The other thing you can do, I don't have a good way of showing this, is sort of step onto something and then push up. So going from a deficit upwards. So doing it on a step. Lars, good to see you. Welcome to the live stream. Glad you're here. So the important thing with calf is to have the knee straight. If the knee is bent, you're only working the soleus, which is the muscle underneath. There's sort of two muscles that make the calf. It's the soleus and the gastrocnemius. If your knee is straight, you're hitting both. If your knee is bent, you're primarily hitting that soleus muscle. So Keeping that leg straight will really help target the entire calf. Lunges, so lunges do primarily hit the quads, but they will hit some of the hamstring and glute as well. The more upright you are, the more it will hit quads. If you bend forward a little bit more, it'll hit more hamstring and calf. So if I do lunges sort of like this, it will hit hamstring and glute. So if I do like this, it'll hit more quad. If I do more like this, it'll hit more hamstring and glute. Lunges are a really versatile exercise. They'll hit all these muscles in the thigh. Just how you do the movement will change the proportion of which ones you hit more. All right, we're gonna jump back to a face pull. Great questions though, I really like what you're asking. So for a face pull, I'm gonna let my hands hang straight down to the ground. And from here, I'm gonna pull my hands up towards my ears. So I'm pulling up to the front, pulling up to about my ears. Now I don't wanna pull down here like a row. I'm not using my lats for this. I'm using these small muscles in the shoulders. So because of that, I have to pull up to negate my lats. So I'm pulling into that external rotation of my shoulder. So this is internal rotation, external rotation. And that's going to hit these small muscles between my shoulders. I'm pulling sort of wide out to the sides. And that's going to engage that posterior deltoid and middle trap. Oh. You get weird pop sounds in your left shoulder when you do this exercise, as if there's tension in your left shoulder somewhere. So I would start with a lighter weight. It might be that your shoulder is actually deviating forward because these muscles are not strong enough, or one of these muscles is not strong enough to stabilize. You could hang on a moment. If you have cables as well, I'm gonna show you with a resistance band, but the form is the same for a cable. I go really light with a cable, going here, letting the muscle go all the way out to the front, so you're really feeling that tension back here in the back of the shoulder, as well as back in here. So from here, pulling back, and then just a nice smooth motion. I don't want to jerk it, and it might be that, are you feeling the pop in the front or the pop in the back? I would say either way though, starting with a light cable could be a way of doing it, or you could even do this. It just sounds like that muscle's having trouble stabilizing. You could do this, no dumbbells, just with hand weight. Just lifting up to the back. Trying to pull your hands up as high as you can. So a lot of times, these internal muscles that pull inwards and down, like the pecs and the lats, are huge pieces of muscle, as opposed to the teres minor is about that big, and the posterior deltoid is about that big. So this muscle versus this muscle it's gonna have trouble actually pulling against those. So sometimes these muscles can be too much of a pull. Kind of in the front and middle. Something you could also try is stretching that pec, or stretching the front of the shoulder. Hang on a moment, I'm looking for something I can use to show you this. So there's a thing called the canoe stretch. You could do this holding a stick or you could even do this with a barbell. So I'm stretching this hand back here, and I'm stretching that front of the shoulder in the back, doing what's called a canoe stretch. So I'm pushing my hand to the back till I feel that stretch in my back shoulder in this hand back here. So pushing to the back, just like you're rowing a boat, except for I'm pushing back and holding that stretch for 20-30 seconds. Now, you might feel like it's more on one side than the other. Like for me, I feel this a little bit more on my right side. But try that stretch, hold it for 20-30 seconds, and see if that helps with some of that popping feeling. It might be you have this right in here, that anterior part of the shoulder has more, is resisting that movement. And so if that's tight, when the anterior deltoid is tight, the posterior deltoid is inhibited. So give that a try and let me know how that feels. If that feels like, oh, that feels really good on your shoulder. A lot of times people who feel tight in the front of their shoulder, I've shown that too, and it's helped them feel a lot looser, feel like they can actually feel. Also when you do heavy bench press, yeah, that really sounds like that's tight and inhibiting back here. So I would say doing the face pull exercise with really light weight, building up strength in that is a really good idea. And try stretching these muscles in the front of the chest. So doing that canoe stretch. Because when muscles work in sort of a teeter-totter, where muscles are always in pairs. So if this muscle is really heavy down here, it holds this muscle from being able to work and go back and forth. So if this is really tight and strong, and this is really weak, then it stops that from being able to contract effectively. But it pains when I stretch and I don't want to risk anything. Yeah, I hear you. So don't stretch it if it is painful. Only go to where you feel light tension but no pain. So I can't diagnose, and I'm not, if there's something's going on with your shoulder, if it's perpetually in pain, or if it's continuing to be in pain, then you would probably need to get that checked out by a professional. I can just say how we would try and mitigate the risk of injury. But if you have an injury, there might be some damaged tissue in there, and that that I can't help you with directly. I can just try and show you exercises to reduce the risk of injuring something in there. So does it hurt even just you could do this in a door frame, holding like this with your hands down here, and just take a step forward, feeling a stretch, gentle stretch across your chest. Does that hurt at all doing this way? You could go low like this and then bring your chest forward so you're pulling those shoulders back just slightly. The other thing you can do, so if you're doing reverse flies like this, that is good for your posterior deltoid. Feel tension but minimal pain. Okay, perfect. So if just go to where you feel that tension feeling and try and hold that for 30 seconds. Try that. Try doing sets of that at the end of your workout. So add however many sets you did a bench press, try and do 20-second stretches of your chest muscle, chest in front of the shoulder, right in there. A lot of times people don't realize how much of a benefit they can get from doing sets of stretching, because you're actually changing your muscle with that as well. just like you are with weightlifting. Oh. So it might be that the canoe stretch is too intense of a stretch at this point where it can't go back this range. So just doing a door frame stretch where you're grabbing onto something and then just gently stepping away, that'll get that same stretch, just a little bit less intense. So a really good question though. A lot of times, if say we're driving, this muscle is shortened. If we're working on the computer or writing, these muscles in here get shortened. And if we do that for a long period of time, especially if you're a student, you're taking notes, you're working on the computer, you're in class, you're reading a book that's out in front of you, these muscles are perpetually shortened by being in this front position. So these back pulling muscles are over lengthened, the front muscles are over shortened, and there can be tension and discomfort in the front of the shoulder. So stretching those out, taking some time away from this position into this position is a really good idea. That's a great question though. Sometimes it's experimenting and finding the stretch that's gonna work well for you. There's a lot of ways of doing targeting different muscles with stretches and exercise. Really think your left wrist and shoulder have some problems. Sometimes also the nerve that runs, there's the brachial plexus nerve runs here, down through the front of the shoulder, and then it goes down and into your funny bone. That ulnar nerve is the name of it. And then down into the carpal nerves in your wrist. So sometimes what you feel here in your wrist actually starts up here at your shoulder, where it's a pinching of the nerve here down into your hand. So your left wrist doesn't bend externally the same as your right wrist, so it doesn't have the full range. Do you feel any numbness in your fingers when you do that, when you go into this range? So test for that is, for a carpal tunnel, is going like this, where do you feel tingling in one hand that's not in the other? Or like this, do you feel tingling in one hand that's not in the other? Sometimes people can't even get this position where they'll be like this, where one hand can't actually touch palm to palm. Okay, tension, but do you have any pins and needles in your fingertips? Like sort of an electric feeling in your fingertips? Okay, that's a good thing. It's good that you do not, but maybe you just have tension in the muscles. So that's another thing you can do, is put your hand against a wall and try and flatten your palm as close as you can to the wall till you feel that tension, and then hold that position. Now you might be here where it can't really get that close, and that's okay. Just go to where you feel that tension and hold. And then as you get more flexible, you can get flatter and flatter to where eventually you can get your palm flat against the wall. And the other way is using your other hand to pull back gently. But usually this is a good place to start if you feel like you have really high tension in your wrist. So working, stretching both sides. So pointing down and pointing up. Yeah, I've known people who have really tight hands, especially, interestingly enough, piano players who have had really tight wrists. So I've worked with them to work on their hand hand tension. So doing things like this where they pull back on the fingers, pull back on the hand, pull back on the top of the wrist, doing stretches like this to help relieve that hand tension. So holding for 20 seconds, 20 seconds. Then doing even things like this, where you gain some mobility in the wrist. People don't realize they undervalue their hands. Think, oh, I want these muscles up here. But a lot of times this can be the weak link, especially if you're doing pull-ups. If your grip strength's not strong, or if it has a lot of tension, a lot of difficulty where your hands are just burning out constantly from that tension. So that grip strength can be the limiting factor on their pull-ups because they can't hang. All right, so we're gonna stop there. Worked the muscles of the shoulder and the arm. So we're gonna be continuing on Friday in 2 days, working on trying to maximize the chest and back, working extra sets in. So we're gonna see the results of that experiment. So thanks for being here. Good to see you, and hope to see you next time. I host these live streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Hit that subscribe button and the bell to be here live so we can talk. Until next time.